Hello and welcome to Jill Cameron Creations. Today I'm going to be using the Christmas set that's part of the Hedgehog Hollow November release. Remember, it's two sets in there. One of them's just kind of general little stick figures by Laura Kelly, and then this one is the Christmas one. I'm using the Gina K Wreath Builder template, and I'm using the holly image with the three little berries on it to create a holly wreath. And it is so stinking adorable. I wanted this to look very cartoony. I wanted it to be very whimsical. So I am going to color it in that way as well. I'm not going to blend my colors thoroughly. I want them to stand out and be very noticeably different. So if you've never used the Wreath Builder stamp set, it's a very clever little simple tool that you can put in any of your stamp platform stamp positioning tools in the corner of it, and have a 4x4 piece of paper. And for this particular one, there is a smaller and larger version of this. And then you start with one stamp, and then you just turn your paper and your stamp stays in the same place as I'm doing here, and it builds you a little wreath. And you can do this with pretty much any stamp that you have. I could have done this with the bows if I wanted to, the bow stamp if I wanted to. Real quick, I'm also going to go ahead and stamp that bow in a little scrap piece of paper. I am using Nina Solar White, and I'm using the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink that is Copic safe. That is my preferred ink for Copic coloring. I think it has a nice black line to it, and it doesn't smear. I used my silhouette with a Picscan mat in order to cut out the bow as well as the wreath here. And all you do is take a picture of it and send it over to your silhouette. If you are using this feature and you're having trouble getting your photos to recognize or anything like that, make sure that how you registered your camera is the settings are exactly the same on every photo that you take for it. If not, it won't recognize the photo. So just kind of be sure that you're doing that. And this is one of my favorite features of the silhouette, because I can use this with digital stamps. I can use it with traditional stamps that don't have dies to go along with them. So it's one of my favorite features. And because I use my silhouette to do other things as well, is one reason that I haven't gone with like a scan and cut machine, is because I use my silhouette for other things as well. So we are going to continue to color here. I did a line of dark color to one side of the holly berries, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the holly leaves themselves. I'm doing a line of dark color, and then I'm filling it in with two colors lighter. So for the green, I'm using a G29 or G28. They're about the same color, so either one would work. And a G24. And G24 is a much lighter shade of green, but it's still in that same really, really green. If you went down to a G21, it would be a little bit more muted, and I didn't really like that completely muted as it was. So for the reds, I used R29 and I used R27 and an R39 to get my red there. And you can't really see it in the video, but you do see that very distinct line in the holly berries as well. So now my wreath is all finished. How simple is that? Now I'm going to color up my my bow, and I'm just putting some dark lines in it as well, and then filling in the rest of it with my lighter color. I'm not doing any blending on these at all. Like I said, I wanted them to be kind of cartoony looking, very whimsical. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a background for my wreath, and I'm going to use this is some black cardstock, and I'm going to use, and it's an older stamp by Concord and Ninth, and it's their Buffalo Plaid. I'm going to link a bunch of different Buffalo Plaid stamps that are available and on the market. This just happens to be my favorite one, and it's the one I got my hands on very quickly. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put this in the center and put it in my stamping tool first, and then it wants to stick really bad. and then I'm going to put my paper in here, and then I'm going to stamp it. I did not get a very good impression because I did not stand up and do CPR on this. However, that is perfectly fine because it just gives it a little bit more of a whimsical look because it's kind of incomplete. I really liked how it ended up. Then I'm going to use some white embossing powder and heat emboss this for buffalo plaid in the back there. So I have white on black. You could also use some scrapbook paper if you had it. That is buffalo plaid. I have tons of that. I could have just as easily used that. There's a million different, like I said, I'll link a whole bunch of the stamps that I have found today that are the different plaid ones. You can also build your own. If you had a solid stripe builder kind of thing, you could definitely build your own background plaid with this. So I went ahead, and this just heats up for a second. I mentioned this in my last video, and I'll go ahead and mention this again in this video. Be sure that you're heating your embossing powder completely. If it's still kind of rough and bumpy, then it's not done. Go back and continue to heat it a little bit more till it smooths out and it gets really, really shiny for you. So just a couple things to keep in mind about your embossing powders. And the reason that I noticed it is because I had something that I was heat embossing the other day, and I noticed that it was kind of still rough and bumpy, and I took the heat gun back to it and noticed it got really, really liquidy looking again. That's kind of how I determine whether or not it's finished, is it kind of gets liquidy looking. So keep that in mind when you're doing your heat embossing. If you have something that doesn't quite look smooth to you, it might be just because you haven't heated it long enough. Keep your heat gun moving, all the same, things that you usually do apply, but you just want to heat it just maybe a little bit longer. And now we're almost done. Simple card, really simple card. So what we're going to do real quick here is I'm going to stamp out a sentiment, and this sentiment I got from a Lawn Fawn stamp set, I do believe. And where's my book? I keep everything written down in a book that has all of my products that I used for a particular card, so that whenever I sit down to, let's say I go back in 6 months and want to make this card again for whatever, I know what products I used, what stamp sets I used, what colors I used. So I just keep everything written down. Sometimes I'll also have it on a sticky note on the back of a card, or stick it on the inside of the card. But eventually I do end up really trying to put everything in my little book here so I don't lose it. But I used the Lawn Fawn Holiday Helpers sentiment for this. Because it was a very teeny tiny little skinny sentiment, and it had two sentiments that I could stack, and it was have yourself a happy little Christmas, or merry little Christmas. And I really have, and what does it say? Have a very merry Christmas. And that's what I wanted to have on the middle part of the wreath there. And we're going to use some foam tape to pop up the sentiment. I'm going to get the card base done here. I use 110 pound Nina Solar White for my card base. And it's going to be a top folding note card. And as you can see, I have a really old scoreboard there. This is a Martha Stewart from like 20 years ago. Probably need a new one. Anyway, I use my Teflon bone folder here, and it doesn't mark your paper. I highly recommend it, especially if you are looking for a good gift to get for a crafter that's a card maker or even a scrapbooker. Get them a Teflon bone folder. They will appreciate it because it does not score or mark your paper at all, and it is an amazing tool. And they're really inexpensive. I have those linked below too. So that's a really good gift idea for anybody throughout the year, or even something that you can grab for yourself as a little treat. Absolutely. Okay. So I add some Aqua Shimmer pen to every single leaf on the wreath here to give it some shimmer and shine. And I also add the, to the holly berries, I went back and I added, glossy accents to that. I had thought that I was going to add some sequins, kind of in red sequins in between some of the leaves. And I added one and did not like it. I absolutely hated it and said, nope, we're not doing that. And I scraped it right back off and said, forget it. We're not doing that. And the last thing that I actually do is pop up my sentiment that's in the center of the card on some foam tape. Now, don't forget to head over to the Hedgehog Hollow and pick up your kit for this month that has these adorable stamps in it. And they were designed by Laura Kelly. And head over to Hedgehog Hollow just to see all the amazing cards that everybody has done and get some ideas for your Christmas cards. This one would be great for a mass production because it goes really, really quickly. And you can cut them out with your silhouette or a scan and, what is that? Scan and cut by Brother. That thing that everybody really, really likes. I can't remember the name of it. I think it is a scan and cut. Anyway. So you see the red sequins that are sitting over there to the left? Yeah, that's the ones I said, no, we're not using. And I'm going to add some foam tape to my bow and pop it up and some foam tape to my sentiments. And it'll be all put together. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel here at Jill Cameron Creations for more fun. And after the first of the year, like I said, we're going to do a Copic refill video that's going to be short and sweet. There's also going to be... I'm hoping I will be able to, since I'm back on my feet a little bit better and have a little bit more set schedule, that I will have more videos that are just my stuff too over on my website, JillCameronCreations.com. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have an amazing one.